Welcome to the Dream Nation Breakfast Club. I am your host, Josh Valentine. Excited to be here with you all as always, as we gather together every single Tuesday from 7 a.m. to about 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, depending on the week. And every single week we have something different for you guys. And the Breakfast Club, for those of you who don't know, we cover everything centered around personal development, life coaching, and so much more. Every single week is something different. And this week, we're going to be talking everything gratitude. So today's topic is going to be the invisible advantage, gratitude as a success strategy. So let's jump right into it. If you're new, welcome. Let us know what city you are tuning in from. If you guys don't mind, drop a comment. If you're watching the replay, drop an R in the comments and let us know what city you are representing here this morning. I know we have people who tune in from different parts of the world. Shout out to everybody on the other side of the pond and everybody tuning in from the West Coast who's getting up super early this morning with us. But welcome, guys. And if you guys don't mind, if you could just drop a like, comment, share, tag, subscribe, whatever you can do to support the show. It definitely helps get this amazing show out there to so many people. And if you're hopping on for the very first time, I've been hosting the Dream Nation Breakfast Club now for it's been about a decade that I've been doing it. I've been doing it online now for about 5 years. So it's interesting. I was debating whether or not I should cancel this morning's Breakfast Club because we're in the holiday season. And you know, it's very rare that I, cancel Breakfast Club sessions. And over the course of 5 years, I could probably count with my fingers the amount of Breakfast Club sessions that I've canceled because, I'm very big on just consistency and providing you guys value. And I know there are a lot of people who are, getting up, getting their week started and, they look forward to the Breakfast Club. So always, an honor to serve our community. And let's get ready to jump right into it. All right. So if you're new, typically within the first few minutes, we're covering different life hacks and fun facts. And today I have a few fun facts for you. The very first one is gratitude physically rewires your brain. So these are centered around gratitude. And it is scientifically proven that gratitude physically rewires your brain. So neuroscience studies show gratitude activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making, focus, and long-term planning. That's the same part elite performers rely on. So gratitude, a lot of people don't realize like the power and potency of gratitude. And one thing that I can tell you is that it most certainly has been very beneficial throughout the course of my life to just, always wake up in a spirit of gratitude, always go back to gratitude whenever I'm feeling down and out. And, business is getting crazy. I always have to go back to gratitude. Whenever life just isn't going the way that you would prefer it to go, you always go back to gratitude and it'll help you kind of get centered again. So next we have number 2 fun fact is top performers practice gratitude more than average people. So high achievers across sports, business, and the military report higher levels of gratitude, not because life is easier, but because gratitude helps them handle pressure better. So really great share. And during this time of the year, I always encourage people to actually take some time to reflect on this past year. And I always like to do a yearly highlight reel, if you will. Now, it's not an actual content creation reel. It's more a note in your phone where, let's just say you're recapping 2025. It'll be a 2025 highlight reel. And it's all of the accomplishments, all of the things that you were able to do throughout the course of the year that you're super proud of, things that you were able to accomplish. And one of the best things that you can do is even go through your phone album for this past year. Just if you have Apple, Droid may have the same feature where you can just put in the year and it'll show all of the videos and photos that you captured throughout the year. And the cool thing about that is you can kind of backtrack all the things that you did. So typically people take photos of, let's say really cool things that they probably were doing in that moment. And it's a great way to remember and recap everything that you've done. So I'll take photos from that and insert it into my notepad, right? Or my journal entry. And then I'll just list out all the things that I was able to do. So right now, for example, off the top of my head, some of the really cool things that 2025 brought was I got to go to Spain and Portugal. It was my very first time in Portugal specifically, and Barcelona. So it was just a really amazing experience that I got to do with my wife. And that was one of the highlights of 2025. So I essentially would just take photos from that trip and put it in the journal entry. Another thing is we had our second annual Creators Conference, and this year we did it at the world-renowned James Museum, and it was really, really cool. It was a major milestone for us, and definitely the biggest, best event that we've had so far. And that was a major milestone. And I did a lot of speaking events. I did all kinds of stuff throughout the year. So sometimes you kind of put these things on the back burner and you take them for granted. So it's super helpful to, again, go back to your photo album, look back at all the photos and things that you did, and put that in your yearly recap. It's interesting too, because on YouTube, and also like podcasts, they'll do like yearly recaps. What was the most, the songs that you listened to the most and things like that. But we never really think to do a recap with our lives. So this is by far one of my favorite life hacks at the end of every year. And what it does is, more than anything, it puts you in a spirit of gratitude. And it's just a great way to close out the year, but a great way to open up the upcoming year. So moving forward, we have number 3. The number 3 fun fact is gratitude improves income potential. When was the last time you thought about gratitude improving your income potential? And basically the way it works is people who regularly practice gratitude are more likely to set goals, follow through, and build better relationships. 3 traits directly linked to higher earnings and career advancement. So you don't want to scare away the money, guys, because, it's funny. One of my business partners, we always talk about just a certain energy that scares away the money. And, we don't mean it in a literal sense, but there are certain just ways of being that repels money, right? If you want to attract abundance in your life, there's a certain frequency, if you will, that attracts that. Like, you have to be very mindful of the way that you feel if you're adamant about just growing wealth. And gratitude is a big, big part of that, because what happens is you're not necessarily attracting your thoughts, you're attracting your emotions, right? Your emotions are energy in motion. So your emotions are attracting more circumstances that bring you more of those emotions. So if you're in a constant state of gratitude, you're naturally going to attract circumstances that bring you more gratitude. That's essentially the way it works. So very, very important. Next, we have, let's see here. Next life hack we have is gratitude under pressure rule. Only practice gratitude when things go wrong. So that's when it actually builds emotional strength. So this is actually, I usually go down the rabbit hole with my research and find different things. So gratitude under pressure. Only practice gratitude when things go wrong. That's when it actually builds emotional strength. So I don't necessarily agree completely with this. I think you should practice gratitude all the time, but it does help when things are going wrong to have that automatic response where when anything goes wrong or you're just feeling down and out and you don't really have much motivation, to immediately switch to a space of gratitude. It definitely helps. And, it's interesting too, because I mentioned the idea of having a highlight reel, right, to recap your year, but I also have a highlight reel for my overall life. So whenever I find myself just kind of like in a funk or not having much motivation, I always go to my highlight reel, and immediately it puts me in a state of gratitude, because this highlight reel encompasses pretty much all of the things that I've done throughout my life, all of the really cool experiences, some of the trips that I've taken, the amazing milestones that really meant a lot to me. And this is definitely one of the best things that you can do whenever you have to just give yourself, a pick-me-upper, if you will. Next, we have trade complaints for curiosity. Every time you feel the urge to complain, replace it with the question, what is this moment training me for? What is this moment training me for? So really, really good. And I remember Jim Rohn would always say, turn your frustration into fascination. You have to discipline your disappointments. And it's so true. Mindset is everything. And you guys hear me say all the time, your mindset is where your mind sits. So number 3 is gratitude before consumption. Before checking your phone in the morning, name one thing you are grateful for. This primes your nervous system for intention instead of reaction. So super important. And, you know, it's interesting too, because I just noticed, like I always say, it's interesting. I was doing a podcast the other day and I realized, I said, I always say I'm curious. And as I'm doing this, I'm like, I always say it's interesting, but I have a deep, deep love of learning. You know, they call us polymaths, people who have a deep love for learning and just, you know, naturally spend a lot of time learning. So I know we attract a lot of people who are the same. I call the Breakfast Club community personal development nerds, because a lot of people who tune in every single week, I mean, who the hell is going to spend, you know, Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., you know, just learning stuff about life, right? But you guys do. So shout out to everybody, all my nerds who are hopping on the Breakfast Club with me every Tuesday. So gratitude before consumption. Before checking your phone in the morning, name one thing you're grateful for. And, you know, one of the things that I learned years ago too is having something that you're grateful for, but that's super insignificant. So it may be, for example, having gratitude for the birds, having gratitude for the beautiful weather outside, or having a beautiful tree that shades your home, right in front of your home. But having something that's like insignificant that you normally wouldn't express gratitude for, but it forces your brain to think about what you can be grateful for. Because when you really think about it, there's so many things. Like it can be having paved roads, for example. It can be having just electricity. There's so many things that we can be grateful for that we take for granted that were luxuries, you know, just 100 years ago. So think about it. Even the average life expectancy has essentially doubled in the last 100 years. So the fact that we could even live past 70 years old is an incredible thing. Now, let's jump right into it. And remember, today we are covering everything gratitude. And today's title is The Invisible Advantage: Gratitude as a Success Strategy. All right, let's jump into it. First and foremost, we have why gratitude is misunderstood. Why gratitude is misunderstood. So when you think about it, gratitude is often sold as like this toxic positivity, right? It's like, you know, it's interesting when everybody started getting into like manifestation and, you know, just thinking positively and attracting all this positive stuff. It did kind of create this toxic positivity in a sense where, you know, people would put on a front like they weren't going through anything and would just try to force positivity on themselves. And, you know, it's just not necessarily the best approach for everyone. So it's always important to be mindful of that. That's not what gratitude is, right? A lot of people also think that gratitude means just settling, right? Or ignoring problems, or just being passive in general. Right? A lot of people look at gratitude like that, and you know, in the business world, it's so important to ensure that you're not looking at it from that lens, because again, it can be a tool. It can be a tool to really get you going. And the truth is, gratitude does not equal complacency, and gratitude more so is about clarity plus emotional regulation. That's essentially what it is. Right? Because why do you get clarity when you're grateful? Simply because you're putting more of a focus on what you do have, right? You're putting more focus on what's going right as opposed to what's going wrong. And remember, what you focus on expands. What you focus on the longest grows the strongest in your life. So if you're in a state of gratitude, you're not going to be in a state of fear. If you're in a state of gratitude, you're not going to be in a state of anxiety. So that's why there's that emotional regulation that kicks in when you are in a state of gratitude. Now, here's a powerful quote. Gratitude doesn't make you stop wanting more. It makes you more capable of handling more. That's what it's about. It's expanding your capacity because you're grateful. Okay. Next up, we have the science and psychology of gratitude. The science and psychology of gratitude. So first and foremost, gratitude lowers cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. We call it the big C in neuroscience. And cortisol is typically going to be on the rise whenever you find yourself stressed out. And it is important, again, to find ways to minimize the cortisol. And there's a lot of ways to go about it. Like you can just go out for walks in nature. You can listen to music that just changes your mood, meditation, prayer, all that stuff. But gratitude is one of the most effective ways to lower your cortisol. Next is it increases dopamine and serotonin. Which is, motivation plus well-being. So serotonin is the happy chemical in your body that just has you feeling a sense of well-being. And whenever you have that dopamine, you find yourself more motivated. So again, gratitude is more about emotional regulation than anything else. Next, we have reduces emotional reactivity, which leads to better decisions. So that's another benefit to gratitude overall, right? It's definitely going to lead to better decisions because you're not focusing or dwelling on what's not working. So why does this matter for success in the first place? Reason why it matters is because it calms your nervous system, right? And outperforms an anxious nervous system. And this is like really, really important because one thing that I've noticed, and I'm not sure how many of you can relate to this, whenever I find myself in a space where I'm like very stressed out or I'm kind of worried about something in business, oftentimes it hinders me from actually being productive. It's actually the enemy, right? It's the inner me that's preventing you from doing what it is that you need to do. So it's very, very important to always ensure that you're taking care of your being in general, because your being is oftentimes going to dictate how productive you are on a day-to-day basis. So that's why, gratitude is so powerful, because it takes you out of that state of fear, overwhelm, anxiety, and puts you in a state of gratitude. Next, we have emotional regulation equals consistency. So, I always say my superpower, if there's any superpower that I have, it's definitely discipline and consistency. So even when you think of the Breakfast Club, right? If I didn't know how to properly regulate my emotions over the last 5 years, life has also been lifing for me as well, just like everybody else. Like I have children, I have a family of 5 that I care for, and I have to go out there, I have to be a business leader, and I have teams all around the world that I have to help with business, and it gets very overwhelming. However, right, because I've understood how to regulate my emotions, it's a big reason why I can show up every single Tuesday with a smile on my face, no matter what's happening in the world, right? I've had loved ones pass away. I've had, all kinds of crises that I've had to navigate through, but I still show up. And there's no way in the world I would have been able to do that if it wasn't for understanding emotional regulation. Okay, so for me, it's typically, we say self-care is the best care. So it's typically things like exercise, it's going for walks outside, it's gratitude, it's journaling, it's meditation and prayer, it's eating right, it's getting enough sleep. All of these things are essential. And you have to take care of the engine, right, that's driving all of your business endeavors and all of your dreams in a sense. And that's you. So remember, consistency beats motivation every time, right? I remember my mentor would always say, you have to do what you know, not what you feel. Because sometimes you're just not going to feel like getting any work done. Sometimes you're not going to feel like going into the gym, but you should be getting into the gym. You know that if you do that work, you're naturally going to feel a lot better about your day. So it's super important. Next, gratitude as a performance tool. Gratitude as a performance tool. So gratitude actually improves a lot of things. It improves focus. It improves resilience. It improves relationship quality and leadership presence. Now, I want to highlight relationship quality specifically because when it comes to just relationships in general, we tend to get really caught up in what we don't like about our partner, right? What we're unhappy with when it comes to our relationship. And meanwhile, there's a million and one things that we could essentially be grateful for when it comes to our relationship. When was the last time you thought about all of the positive aspects of your partner? All of the positive aspects, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's a boss or manager. And when you really, really reflect on it, you probably can name a bunch of qualities that you do like about that person, hence why you started building the relationship in the first place. Okay, so gratitude most certainly helps when it comes to relationships. And I constantly have to remind myself of that because it's so easy to get caught up in what you don't like about your partner, right? Or what you're frustrated with. And we tend to lose focus of the majority of the relationship that may actually be positive. So very, very important. Next, we have, you can apply gratitude to, let's just say, it applies to entrepreneurs handling setbacks. It can be leaders managing teams, fathers or mothers balancing ambition and family, or maybe you're a content creator and you're facing comparison and burnout. So many different things that gratitude applies to, and so many people and scenarios. Now, here's a great quote. Gratitude is how you stay grounded while aiming higher. Gratitude is how you stay grounded while aiming higher. I remember hearing in the world of personal development years ago, like people would just say like, oh, you got to be content or you got to be grateful for what it is that you do have. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, why am I going to be content? Why am I just going to like settle for what I do have when I want more? But the thing about it is it's actually counterintuitive to think that way, because gratitude actually brings you more. The more grateful you are, again, the more you attract circumstances that bring you more gratitude. So it's not like, oh, if I'm grateful, then I have to just settle, right? Like, or you're not going to have desire. No, it doesn't work that way. It's really about being grateful and, aspiring for more if that's what you want. However, being grateful for where you're at, because sometimes we get so caught up in the future, right? And I'm not sure how many of you guys can relate to this, but I know for me, sometimes I get so caught up in the future that I really forget to enjoy the present moment. And, that future may be something that we're pursuing, like a financial goal. It may be a weight loss goal, or maybe a relationship goal. And you're so immersed in that. And you're spending so much time chasing that you end up forgetting all of the beautiful aspects of your life. So it is important to remind yourself to enjoy the present moment. And there's so much that you can be grateful for on an everyday basis. Next, we have why ungrateful people plateau. Why ungrateful people plateau. This happens all the time. So ungrateful people, first and foremost, chase outcomes without appreciating process, right? Like just always on the go and never really taking time to just, again, be grateful for what it is that they have. Ungrateful people also burn bridges instead of building relationships. Anybody know anyone like that? Burn bridges instead of building relationships, because sometimes people who are ungrateful, they forget those who actually help them get to where they are. Right. And one thing I learned in the business world is that you got to be careful on your way up, not to, treat people bad, because you will see them on your way down. You will run into them and it's not going to be a pleasant experience. Next, ungrateful people are constantly dissatisfied, which leads to burnout. And it's so true. Sometimes you're just so caught up chasing and dissatisfied that you just end up burning out altogether. Right. And then ungrateful people operate from scarcity instead of strategy. Okay. From scarcity instead of strategy. So again, two thoughts, two emotions cannot occupy the body and mind at the same time. So that's the power of gratitude. It eliminates whatever negative emotion you're feeling in that moment, because what you're focusing on typically is going to have a direct effect on your emotions in that moment. Okay. So it's impossible to feel happy with depressing thoughts. It's impossible to feel or think about things that bring you gratitude and feel anxiety. So that's the power of it. Okay. And another thing is, when it comes to grateful people, Grateful people learn faster. Grateful people recover quicker. Think about what's better for your immune system, for example. If you are lowering your cortisol levels and increasing your dopamine and serotonin levels, it's naturally going to improve your immune system. Like you are a healthier person the more grateful you are. So that's a big part of the recovery. It helps build long-term trust as well. When you're grateful, especially if you're in a leadership role, when you're grateful, people typically want to work for you or work with you because they feel appreciated. If you're ungrateful, why would someone want to work for an ungrateful leader or manager or boss? So it is essential, right? For those of you who run teams to be grateful. And also it helps you stay emotionally stable during chaos. You can be the peace in the storm. Next, practical gratitude practices that actually work. So here we go. Here are some best practices, and not just stuff, that you can put in the journal. Like, it's all kinds of different aspects of gratitude practices. The very first one is situational gratitude. So ask yourself, in any moment, what advantage does this situation give me? Right? What advantage? It's just a way to kind of reframe your mindset. Whenever you are encountering different obstacles, ask yourself, what advantage does this situation give me? Where's the blessing in this? Where's the treasure in this trash? Where's the inspiring message in this mess? And if you dig deep enough, you'll find that every situation can come with a blessing. Secondly, people-based gratitude. Regularly acknowledge mentors, partners, team members, even critics, right? Thank the haters. They're a big part of the journey as well. So, the hero's journey would not be one if there weren't any critics. So that's also a part of the journey, and have gratitude for it all. Next is future gratitude. Act grateful for discipline, not outcomes. Appreciate effort before results. So it's more focused on the journey than it is the destination. Okay. And that's a big part of it. Next, we have hard gratitude. So you can be grateful for delays, rejection, resistance, because those build capacity. Now think about it. If you're sitting in traffic, you can sit there and dwell on it, right? You can complain about it. But when it's all said and done, like, what is that actually doing for you? Or you can just say, you know what? I'm grateful because I actually get some time to maybe catch up on an audiobook or a podcast. Or maybe you're waiting online and you can make a phone call to a loved one, right? There's certain things. Maybe it's rejection. And you say, you know what? I'm grateful to even be on this journey, because there's no way that you're going to get the outcome you're looking for without failing forward, without getting rejected. That's a big part of the process. So just taking time to even acknowledge the fact that you're on your hero's journey, right? Going through resistance. The hard is typically what makes something an opportunity. If what you were aspiring to do was not hard, would it be much of an opportunity? Think about it. So embracing the hard, reframing the way you look at certain things. And these are the hard gratitudes, right? It's not always easy to be grateful when you're going through rejection or you're failing, but it is an essential part of the process. Sometimes when I go through very difficult circumstances, I'll have to remind myself that, you know what, this is going to make an incredible story one day. And I just reframe it, because it's like it keeps you going and it keeps you pressing forward. Next, we have, and by the way, if you guys are getting value, drop a V in the comments for value if you're getting value so far. Here we go. Gratitude and legacy. So you have to tie it back to purpose, right? Gratitude creates presence. So it's a great time, like you said, as you're aspiring to go higher, it's a great opportunity to be grounded simultaneously. Okay, so gratitude creates presence. It allows you to say, you know what, let me slow down and be grateful. It's interesting. The other day, I was going for a walk in my neighborhood. And as I was walking, I was just doing my best to be present in the moment. And it dawned on me, like, man, I can't remember the last time I reflected on just even nature. Like I saw these birds hovering over my head and I can hear them. They were very loud. And it had been months since I even noticed the sound of birds flying over my head. And just that moment reminded me of just the beauty of life and how much of a blessing it is to even be alive, right? Like being around nature, reflecting on things that you typically wouldn't express gratitude for. It is such a blessing to be alive. So gratitude is always a great opportunity to just get grounded, right? Another thing is presence strengthens relationships, right? Like think about those of you who are parents, or those of you who are in intimate relationships, or maybe you have like really best friends. Imagine how your friends would feel or your kids would feel like if you were just constantly glued on your phone, going through your social media while they're trying to tell you something important, right? None of us like that. It's not a pleasant experience when you're trying to communicate with someone. I was communicating with a business partner and I noticed that there was just like my business partner was doing two things at once, and I caught it and I mentioned it, right? Because again, sometimes you want someone's undivided attention, and you can tell when someone's mind is in two different places. You understand? So presence is super important because it does strengthen relationships. When you're with a kid, kids also notice. You may think that they don't notice you, like, on your phone instead of being present with them. So in our household, we're big on that. Like if we're sitting down to eat dinner as a family, we don't do technology, we don't do phones or anything like that. It's important to just have actual conversations. And that's something that you can implement, in your relationships. Also, strong relationships outlast achievements. And it's so true, because that one achievement may last for the moment or the year or the week, but those strong relationships sometimes are for a lifetime. And, there's just so much value that stacks with strong relationships. So think about that, right? Think about how much of an emphasis we put on achievement and how much we downplay just having really great relationships. One thing that I can tell you is that achievements are so much better when you do it with people you love, when you do it with those who are really close to you. It hits different. Now, here's some closing thoughts. Success without gratitude feels empty. Gratitude without ambition stays small. The real power is learning to hold both. Really, really powerful. And I'll say it again for those in the back who didn't catch it the first time. Success without gratitude feels empty. Gratitude without ambition stays small. The real power is learning to hold both. I remember my mentor would always say that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So it's about the science of achievement, but the art of fulfillment. You need both in order to really, really maximize on whatever it is that you're pursuing. So as we close out, and I know today was short, I want to get you guys back to your holiday season, spending time with the family. But as we close out, my encouragement to you is practice gratitude during one difficult moment this week. So if you catch yourself getting frustrated, again, turn your frustration into fascination. Get yourself rooted in gratitude. Maybe you're going through a very difficult time in your relationship, and you can just take some time to reflect on all the good qualities about your partner, your friend, your business partner, whatever, your colleague. But take some time to reflect on all the good aspects. It'll most certainly help. And then send one message of appreciation that you've been postponing. So maybe there's someone that has been doing a lot of work for you, or maybe it's someone that helped you, right? And just sending a message of appreciation, it goes a long way. And then lastly, reflect on what you already have that once felt impossible. Something that you may have, maybe you lost 30 pounds and managed to keep it off. Maybe you're living in the home that at one point in time, you didn't really see how you were even going to make it happen. And you'll find that many times you're living in what was once your prayer. And it's so important to reflect back on that. So my encouragement for you guys, again, to close out for this year, 2025, look back at your year and and reflect on all the little blessings that came along the way. It's so easy to forget. It's so easy to put these things on the back burner. It's so easy to downplay the things that are miracles. Every single day in front of our face, we have miracles happening, but we get so caught up on the money, right? We get so caught up on the achievement, the status, the accolades, all of these different things. But that's just one slice of the pie of this thing we call life. So taking some time to reflect on like so many beautiful things, whether it's having good health, whether it's living in a country where there's no war or genocide going on, like that's a blessing. The fact that we don't even have, let's just say, starvation. Like, when was the last time you heard someone starving to death that you personally knew in this lifetime? Probably not even once. Right. And the fact that you have food to eat, you have a shelter over your head, there's so many people out there who are struggling, so many people who are homeless, and we just have so much to be grateful for, despite all the craziness happening in the world. And it is very uncertain. We are living in unprecedented times, but it's nothing in comparison to what some of our ancestors had to endure. It's nothing in comparison to many other time periods before us. So don't get so caught up in all of the negative news, right? Because if you open up your door, you walk outside, you'll see miracles everywhere. So my hope is that you could just take some time this week to reflect on everything that you do have, everything that is working in your life, and go into your 2026 with that attitude. And I can ensure you it'll be a much better way to open up the new year while closing out this year. And man, did the time fly. But so happy to be here with you guys. I'll be seeing you all next week for the last Breakfast Club of 2025. Take care. God bless. Breakfast is served. And I'll be seeing you guys soon. Take care.